He's waiting so patiently for me to get ready because we're going out to breakfast because we didn't go out on Saturday because I have that class I'm taking for the next 2 Saturdays too. So we're going out to breakfast today and have just one errand to do after that. Now this guy, his problem is he won't make eye contact with me because he has a sense we're leaving and he figures if he doesn't make eye contact with me, maybe he can influence that differently. Yesterday the sky was filled with these guys too. I think they're snow geese. They're actually so high up you can't tell for sure. But there's so many of them. There were thousands and thousands in the air yesterday and again today. So I guess they finally decided it's gotten too cold north and they're headed south. Out there, that's the last of the sunshine we saw today. Then the clouds came in.
$10 an hour at McDonald's. You usually 8.
May want to go to McDonald's? Want to work there, hon?
Never worked at a McDonald's or Geno's.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in the sub shop, but what's unusual about us is most people our age have worked in a fast food place at some point. We worked in a restaurant. We worked with food, just didn't work in a fast food. So it looks like these guys like to go to our favorite restaurant as much as we do. We talk about how the seagulls have got dependent upon handouts from sloppy humans. It looks like the turkey vultures are doing the same thing. We actually are very fond of turkey vultures, though, aren't we, hon?
Yeah, they're pretty cool looking.
And they don't kill anything. They just clean up what dies, and there's something just so neat about that. I read someplace that they have a wingspan of 7 to 8 feet. Oh, one flies in the car. You're not going to like that too much. We're literally, what, 6 feet from them?
That's it.
Hi, honeys. Everything we read about them says they're extremely gentle, like they're one of the gentlest birds that's out there. Even though they look a little forbidding. Oh, he's got to open it up to get to the food. Don't you love the kind of small local neighborhood restaurant where you meet people you know? While we were eating our breakfast, we met somebody from church, and then we met two different neighbors from our neighborhood, and then we met somebody else from church. Such a nice homey feeling. Not counting the fact that we know every waitress and the owners by name at this place, but breakfast was good. Headed to the local hardware store, that's Ace, and introduced here with Ace is the place because there was a jingle, which I don't remember the tune to, which goes Ace is the place for the friendly hardware folk. And we're headed here because, yeah, I guess the hardware folk are friendly here. But they don't need to help us. I need safflower seed for the birds, and I need some suet for the woodpecker birds. So remember in an earlier video I was telling you how so many of the farmlands are going away developments. This beautiful, beautiful field, which we always see so many deer in, is currently being torn up to build houses. It's an unusually high tide. We just drive around the neighborhood after breakfast and we saw this, and the marshlands are flooded and the piers are all underwater. It's really a unusual high tide. So that probably means about, say, a 2 foot, 2 foot higher than normal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We didn't remember seeing anything in the news that there was going to be an unusual high tide. But the bay is in probably 200 feet or so. So it must be a pushback from the storm we're supposed to get. We're supposed to get something, but we don't know what yet. I have before me books. There's a new person that moved into our neighborhood who likes the same books I do. Because, well, if you know me personally, you know this, but from what I've shared on YouTube, you probably wouldn't, because I think the only books I've ever mentioned are reference books and books on history and mythology and archaeology and poetry. But I love me a good contemporary or historical romance. Yes, I do. I can sit down and read one of these in an hour or so and just, oh, like totally escape. And our new neighbor, who obviously retired with a lot more money than I do, passes her books on to me, which is such a treat because I don't have a book budget. And when I buy books now, it's a splurge, and it's almost always reference books. Recently, it's obviously been a lot for tarot. But for those who don't know this about me, she doesn't like historical romances, so I never get any of those from her. But I like Cheryl Woods, Susan Mallory, Fern Michaels, Rayanne Thane, and Debbie McCumber. So she likes the same books, so she gives me these, and I go through them, and I see which ones I've read or haven't read. I've read some of them from the libraries, so, but if they're newer ones, and actually she just gets all the new books, I guess. The library has a long waiting list for those. You could be the 30th person on a waiting list for one, and you can take them out up to 30 days, so who knows when you're going to get them. So I will go through these, and I will see which ones I haven't read, and I think off the top of my head there's actually maybe half or a little less than these that I haven't yet read. And then I have a book box over here to open. My mother has always, after she's read her books, boxed them up and sent them to me. And a sign of the times is I used to get, every other week I would get a book box about, twice the size of this. Now about once a month or so, every 4 to 6 weeks, I get this small package of books, which is, it's sad in a way because it means Mom can't read the way that she used to, but she's sneaking up to her middle 80s, so that's understandable. So I will open those up and see if there's any in there that I haven't yet read. And I kind of cherish these because reading is one of the only things that my mother and I have ever really had in common. Literally, other than that, you just wouldn't know she's mom and I'm daughter. We have so not in common everything else. So the book box is always kind of a special thing that's been coming from her probably for the last 20 years. Ever since, let's say, more than that, I guess, 20 years or so when they moved to the West Coast. And it's I've always looked forward to the book box coming in. So let's see what goodies might be inside that. Mom sometimes sends like thrillers and detective novels, which I give to the library here in our community. But she gets a lot of really good books that are West Coast themed. So they might be Seattle or Spokane or there's that island that Janet loves so much, which I'm not thinking what the name of it is right now. Janet Herblove. She used to live there. Mom sent me several romances that were actually on that island, and I think of Janet when I read them. And Mom also likes the historical romances, which, did I mention that? Which is nice because probably they're my favorite. The old bodice ripper types? Yep, Annie's seriously into bodice ripper books. As Light entertainment. I guess this is my TV, where some people might settle down and watch a TV show to relax. Or kind of like, as my dad used to call it, chewing gum for the eyeballs. That's what these kind of books are to me. It's just a total, brain doesn't have to do anything, just curl up in the sun with a cup of tea and read a dumb, silly book. So my book pile to go through just increased because I opened the book box from Mom. Mom has favorite authors too, that I like to read, which would be Laura Lippman, Elizabeth Adler. Mom's good for Danielle Steele. I think I have read every book that Danielle Steele have put out because of Mom having sent them to me. They're kind of like something I wouldn't buy for myself, but I admit to like a guilty pleasure in reading them. I think I've read every one of her books. Mom sometimes now, didn't used to in the past, but now she reads something twice and doesn't know it, so sometimes I get duplicate books. So I'll check and see to be sure if I've read that one. And Susan Wiggs is another one that Mom likes that I like. There's usually at least one Reader's Digest condensed book in Mom's book boxes. I wonder, do they still make them? I've never been a condensed book fan. Sometimes if there's one of the books is one I think Roger will like, I'll pass it on to him, and like he might like this Robin Cook book, and he also might like the Greg Donallo book there. Mom's a big Nicholas Sparks fan. I am so totally not. I don't know why, but I've never gotten into Nicholas Sparks. Just, and even the movies they've made from his books, just don't get into it. And this one surprised me. In the midst of my mom's books is a V.C. Andrews book. I was kind of surprised to see that in there. So I wonder what, she signs them when she reads them. So yes, she did read it. There's her initials. Hi, Mom. So I'm interested in that. I'm going to have to ask her when I talk to her where the V.C. Andrews books started coming into the picture. So now I will be going through these to see which ones I have not read. And the rest of them I will be passing on to other women in our neighborhood who read the same kind of books. And if it's not a romance book, I will be giving it to the library here in our community. And then I'm moving on to the last of the spice bottles. I only have that many more to do, plus maybe 5 or 6 more for labeling and putting them in the new bottles, and that little project is done. So I am tickled pink that in this collection, this one I think from my mom, yep, is a Cheryl Woods book. My absolute favorite genre is romances, or even historical romances, that involve a woman who has some age on her and who either inherits or takes on the renovation of a house. I don't know if there's a name for that particular genre, but those are my absolute favorite of the books that I read that I don't need a brain for. When there is a house and renovations, inheriting an old house or inheriting an old antique shop in a house, that's my absolute favorite kind of this kind of book. So I'm all excited because I don't think I've read this one, and it is in the batch of new books from my mom. And I also like Cheryl Woods' writing. And my least favorite theme of contemporary romance books is ones that have to do around the Christmas season. They're focused just on that week or whatever, but they just never appeal to me. And it's nothing against Christmas. It's just, I guess I don't like a book that's so limited in time and scope. I like the characters to spend more time over time. Yeah, even when you read these kind of books, you have a definite opinion about certain things. So I ended up with a stack of 7 books from myself that I hadn't read before. Some of them from my friend Pat and some from my mom. And then I have a full box of books to send to my mom. So that ended up being nice. I like my Kindle, don't get me wrong. And it comes in really handy on days when my hands just aren't cooperating, when I drop everything I touch, because then holding a book's a problem. But I still prefer curling up with a book in my hand Just don't think I'm going to lose that. I do like the fact that I can use my Kindle to go to the library, and that's really probably my favorite part of using the Kindle. It's not so much buying books as it is being able to go to the library from my couch. I also like the Kindle for reference books. I don't have room to store a lot of reference books here, so unless I get one cheap, a used book, reference book, for instance, with my tarot studies, I like books on my Kindle because of the ability to search within them. And sometimes you find some things that weren't indexed properly, so you wouldn't have catched them if you were just using the index. So Kindle has its reasons for me, and I will keep using my Kindle for reference books that I can't find cheap and for going to the library from my couch. But when it comes to just settling down and reading for enjoyment, a history book or poetry or mythology, archaeology, and then my dumb, silly romances, I really prefer to have a book in my hand. Yesterday's Sunday service got a pretty good sized paragraph in my journal. That says a lot for that Sunday service. Sometimes it won't even get mentioned. Not yesterday. So writing about the Darwin Day lecture yesterday, there was a couple of things I remembered to write down, which fascinated me, which is that for some reason, and they don't know why, Delaware is the state in the United States that has the most death of babies upon birth. Not babies that die, soon after birth. For instance, drug addicted babies or things like that. But the actual highest rate of death of babies during birth. And that's something I'm going to look into and see. First, is it true? Although she was a professor at the University of Delaware, so I'm sure she knows what she's talking about. But she said she didn't have the causality for that, but I would be very curious to know more about that. And the other thing that they were talking about, the work that had to be done. I guess it was very involved and tedious work to be able to extract DNA from Lucy. And that one of the things that they were able to then go on and study further and learn is that the theory that the Neanderthals became extinct in some, swipe of extinction is not true. That there is now proof, because of the DNA work we can now do, that while their numbers appeared to dwindle, that they began mating with other human species and kind of became absorbed and became part of the DNA trail. And I found that was very interesting. And I also thought it was interesting, it's a phrase I'd never heard before. I have to jot that down because I forgot it until I was just doing this. That there's I guess it's a scientific slang called a scar of evolution, which means that we think of evolution always taking us to a better place, the higher possibility of each species. But in the process of survival and some of the adaptations that occur as anything evolves, that there are sometimes things that are not good for the species that are the side results of that. This came out in the discussion about the fact that human women are far less built to deliver children, the next generation, safely compared to our antecedents species-wise. That our small pelvis is a scar of evolution. And that is not something I'd heard before as an expression, so that was an interesting thing to consider. So I ended up with a day of getting stuff done. Thanks to my little list here. I went through all those books that I showed you. And they gave us a reading in the 101 class this past Saturday for next Saturday, which I did. I balanced the checkbook and wrote bills. I made an appointment to get my hair cut. Yeah, I'm sure you've been noticing I'm one shaggy person. I had to deal with my ex-employer because of a missing W-2. And let's see. Because the W-2 is missing, I had to change the time of our tax appointment. And I filled up my little calendar book for the year. I don't have a smartphone. I don't have a phone. So I haven't felt the need to have anything to keep track of my life because my life has been so simple. I didn't need to keep track of it. So I bought this little book to keep in my pocketbook, and well, there's lots of stuff in it now. Drumming Circle and some films that my church is putting on, and discussion groups I'm joining, and Tuesdays with the ladies, and monthly luncheons with the women in the neighborhood and the dinner club, and just stuff. A life. And let's see, sent emails out to the committees at the church that I am volunteering to be part of. We can donate extremely small amounts per month, and that doesn't bother me at all. I gave a lot more to the church I used to be part of, but then again, I was working. So a lot less goes to this one, but then again, I was very aware of the fact that I have currency in time to give. So other than the running around with Roger and the things we did together this morning, I wasn't outside for very long, so the tiny moments by the bay will be tiny. Because in honesty, it's just too cold for me out there right now. And it really wasn't. I just didn't react to it well today for some reason. It was a little bit above freezing, so if you bundle up for that, it should be fine. And normally, I am. And I shouldn't have complained about it because the temperature's going down starting tomorrow, and it's going to stay in the low 20s for the next 4 days. Brr. That's unusually cold for us. They're getting snow again a little bit north of us, but again, we're just underneath the rain-snow division, and probably will get rain. If we get snow, it'll be just a little bit. Poor people downhill from us, they're having another terrible high tide today. It's not going to be as bad as it was in that nor'easter, but it's going to be another one that's going to be a nuisance for them. It shouldn't cause any problems with their houses, though it's not going to be that high. So it was a good day. I only have fun stuff left. I'm a week behind in the YouTube Pagan Challenge, so I need to do that video, which was the one on what's this time of the year like for us. And I'll probably record, I'll wait a couple days to put it up, the one on cultural appropriation, which I think that's an interesting topic. And I'm looking forward especially to what the other people doing the YouTube Pagan Challenge are recording regarding that. And then I have some YouTube videos to watch. I'm behind on my watching. My watch queue is very full. I haven't even watched, well, I wouldn't have watched the YouTube Pagan Challenge videos this week because I don't watch a topic until I've done mine. It's just a habit I developed the first week that kind of like my reward for actually getting mine done was then to see what other people were talking about. So those are the things I plan on doing if I get those 2 videos done. I have other videos I want to do. I don't know if I think that's enough for videos for tonight because it won't take me long to do those and edit this one. And I need to work on, believe it or not, because of circumstances beyond our control, it's not until Thursday this week that my working partner and I are getting together to do our Imbolg ritual. So we are definitely celebrating this season of Imbolg, not Imbolg proper, but it's a good thing. Neither one of us could avoid the circumstances that hit us this week, including a fall for her, which provided some injuries, which has kept her from being able to do anything for a couple of days. So I'm looking forward to that, but I need to put together something for us to do because I tend to put our rituals together. And so that'll be fun, a quiet thing to do at the end of the night. So that's it for today. It was, in part, a calm, relaxing day. And then, in part, I got busy and I got some stuff done. That's a very good day, I think. Until tomorrow, my friends.